good evening. Welcome to all those I haven't met and those who are back again. We're back to the dark times in more ways than one. And our practice becomes even more a treasure. Being able to come together, practice together, and approach our lives and all their challenges with some measure of equanimity and wisdom and kindness and patience and great determination. Maybe a sense of humor whenever we can muster one, at least about ourselves and our own foibles. And so tonight, was anybody visited by a fly when you were meditating tonight? Is the fly in the Zendo?
I think they have the night off tonight.
Oh. Well, there's been a fly in the Zendo. I don't know if it's just one or if it's a whole troop, but we've been hearing about them all week. And so I wanted to talk about the fly in the Zendo and ask here's a riddle, how is a fly a gate? Somebody was complaining about the fly as a real distraction. They were trying to meditate and the fly just kept bugging them, literally. And they just couldn't, they got into a big mess about how should they react to it or should they kill it? Or they knew that they weren't supposed to move, but they wanted to be a good Zen student. And they were just getting into a big mess about this fly. And you know, the fly is a Dharma gate. So tonight I wanted to talk about Dharma gates because somebody has asked me what is meant by a Dharma gate. What is a gate? You know, when we're looking at Dharma gates, part of our great vow is Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Or another translation is Dharma gates are numberless. I vow to enter them. And that's really a description of mindfulness, of recollection, of our whole practice, is recognizing how everything is a Dharma gate. What is delightful and what is pesky. What is irksome and what is deeply, deeply troubling. All Dharma gates. Every little bit of our own reactivity and anything that comprises all of the variations of suffering that mark our human existence. So is there a Dharma gate somewhere else? When we're looking for Dharma gates, can we look somewhere else? Is there a gate somewhere else to be found? And sometimes that's the impression we have about practice, is that we're looking somewhere else. The practice is pointing to things that we have to look around for and try to find somewhere else. As opposed to, it is our own glance. It is our own view that this phrase is pointing at. Taking advantage, opening the gate right here with this particular experience, whatever it is the gate to our whole life, our complete life. And sometimes, and often we're prompted to open that gate, open this moment of life as a Dharma gate, because it is irksome. But we could also, and we should, when we're particularly blissful or happy, one, enjoy, and two, recognize that too is based in conditions. aligning in a way that's pleasant, that pleases us. So the Dharma speaks about every aspect of our life. Not just what is pleasant and not just what is difficult, but everything. So one of the teachers, one of the ancients, Muso Soseki, has a passage in his wonderful little book titled Dream Conversations. And he says, Zen people make a big mistake in thinking that we're going to get something from Zen practice. And then he goes through all of the things we want to get. Curing our ills, our physical ills, becoming very successful, finding love, getting wealthy, whatever you think that being spiritually ripe is going to change is kind of like, and then he talks about how the mind of Zen is like the cosmic mind. It's vast. And so wanting to get something is thinking that the cosmos doesn't yet have it, right? Or wanting to change something. Something about the cosmos is off base, is out of whack. It's just silly to think that we're going to get something of that order out of our practice. And that's important because it points at gaining what Suzuki Roshi calls a gaining idea for practice. We're going to gain something. We're going to be a different person. Well, in a way, when we stop harassing ourselves and listening to our inner critic voices, that changes a lot. It really lightens the load considerably. When we become friendly with our own experience and not try to push certain experiences away or pull certain experiences to us, that really relieves a lot of stress. So in that way, but the fact is, and Aiken Roshi, who was was my first deep teacher, said that, and this was when he was like, I don't know, in his 80s, he said, I was so surprised to find that even when I peek out from under the covers in the morning, I'm peeking out with the same person is peeking out who peeked out from the covers when I was 4 years old. This sense of continuity of a self, right? Well, the fact is we're not the same person. We're never moment by moment. We're continually changed. When we're not hanging on to certain ideas about who we are. And Dharma gates, difficulties, point out what we're hanging on to. What is the source of the difficulty? If things don't go the way we want them to go, what's the source of our difficulty there? We may never have noticed that we carry around a certain expectation or an image about how a good life should be. And if it's not that way, there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with the system. There's something da-da-da-da-da, but we don't necessarily recognize that there's nothing wrong innately. It's just the mind of the cosmos is way big. Conditions are multifarious, and they're way out of our knowing. We don't know mostly what is happening that we are affected by in our local life. So Dharma gates are, there's a bell on the gate. It says right here, Look here, be here. Discover the wholeness right here. So there's a story from the Desert Fathers, the early Christian fathers, that goes like this. There's a holy man, and one of his disciples comes to him and says, I really want to find the great silence. I want to experience the great silence. And the father says, you want to experience the great silence? Let me see, what can I suggest? And at that point, along comes Jesus. And this person asking for the great silence looks at the father, and the father says, and Jesus says to him, follow me. And he follows him. And the desert father is like, so the guy comes back to him a while later, looking very different, very at peace. And he says, well, I was about to tell you how you can discover this great silence, but you followed Jesus, what's that? And he said, well, I thought that the trouble was that I didn't have the great silence within me, but what I realized was that what was bugging me was all the noise inside me. And following Jesus, that subsided. So very often we think that we're looking at what we want and excluding from our view what the obstructions are, what's getting in our way, that we are doing. Listening to our inner voices that are not helpful, that divide the world into good and bad, me and you, us and them. It can be really difficult to sit in zazen for any of us, to really believe the instruction, which is to sit and be a body sitting and breathing. And really credit that as real instruction, as our inmost possibility, that could we actually be a body sitting and just breathing. That's simple. Because thoughts come up and they seem so real. We believe them, we identify with them. Sensations come up. A fly lands on our hearing aid. That happened yesterday, a fly landed on that guy's hearing aid, on his ear. Can you imagine what that would be like? Really loud. That's a moment of profound intimacy with a little being. How does a fly take the next step? How do you take the next step when we're doing kinhin? How intimate can you be with each step? Not adding, trying to have it be a certain way, but feeling the support of the ground, the support actually of gravity, the uprightness, all of the characteristics of a step in a human body. That's simple. Practice is that simple. And it applies to our whole life like that, applying applying that mind, that quality of mind to every moment, every aspect of our life. We call it just this. So when we're at work, we just do whatever the task is. I know it doesn't always seem that simple. It's confused if we're working with a lot of people who have a lot of different ideas about what the work is or how to do it, right? But it's important to recognize that, if that's what's going on. If we're waking up in the morning, what is that first thought of the day? How present can you be to notice the first thought of the day? One of the things that we discover if we practice at night before going to bed is when we sit down, I don't know about we, but I know for me, I sit down and my mind is filled with thought. Reviewing the day, thinking about tomorrow, whatever it is, worrying about what's going on in the world. And then breath by breath by breath, coming back to just being a body sitting and breathing. And then when going to bed, assuming that the lying down posture, so meditation, we can engage meditation in 4 postures: sitting, standing, walking, and lying down. So if we've done zazen before going to bed, what is that practice of falling asleep? We can become very intimate with the mind as it releases its cognitive doings. And we go directly into pure body, and then slip into what? So when we think about Dharma gates, the first thing we think about is capital D Dharma gates, which would be the teachings. That's complicated because there are a lot of teachings. There are 2,600 years of teachings, if not more. But actually, Dharma gates are small d Dharma. And the Dharmas are all phenomena. That's what that refers to, or any phenomena. That sound is a Dharma. This is a Dharma. You know, your hair is Dharma. Your thoughts, your impulses, your emotions, they're all Dharmas. Formless and formed. Form and formless Dharmas. So Dharma gates is any phenomenon is a gate. Don't forget that this practice is always available with anything that's going on. With fully experiencing, wholeheartedly embodying, the vitality of anything is fully available to us. All right, we regain our full vitality as we really allow anything to be wholeness, the wholeness of the moment. So, you know that story, I'm sure everybody's heard this story, it's kind of a popular one, of 2 monks are walking along and they come to a stream in flood. standing by the stream is a beautiful young woman. And these monks, they've taken vows of celibacy and no impure thoughts. And they can't help it. But anyway, she can't get herself across. And they know that if she were to step in, because she was just a little thing, she'd be swept away. So one of the monks picks her up, carries her across, sets her down, and then they go on their way. And the other monk, a little ways further along, is really, really annoyed, really upset. So he says, what's your problem? What's the matter? He says, you picked up that woman, you carried her. And the other monk says, well, I put her down. You're still carrying her. That's such a great story. Think of how much you're carrying. From the past. An experience we had 50 years ago. Still carrying it around with a charge, with an attitude of some sort or question about it. So that's an example of a Dharma gate. What opens, whatever we become aware of, whatever we recognize as, this is my life. This is not separate. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of you're pounding in a nail and you get distracted and you pound your thumb. 800 pounds of pound? Now you can go with staying separate from that, but at the moment that you pound the thumb, there is no separation whatsoever. You are just the pain. And then the thoughts start to multiply about it, right? The Zen literature is filled with stories about people who awaken from an accident. When something unexpected happens, you are not prepared for it and you fully are impacted. At that point, there is no separation. There's no duality. When we get into the habit of appreciating our difficulties, of appreciating anything and everything, it becomes more and more apparent that there is not a separation between any circumstance and the content of the circumstances and our own self moment, our own experience. It's all arising simultaneously together. I think I've said everything I need to say about Dharma gates. This is a wonderful quote that Dogen shares in his fascicle titled One Bright Pearl. His description of life is, and the universe is one bright pearl. Our life is one bright pearl. When we take that on as a koan, we don't think about it, although we usually begin with thinking about it. But we more and more become the one bright pearl. We take it into the body, into the mind, the color of it, the sight of it, everything. There's just no separation, one by one. Anyway, in this wonderful fascicle, he quotes Zen master Gensha, who says, I wish I would have brought my glasses. You must know that even in the black mountain cave of demons, complete freedom is working. You must know that even in the black mountain cave of demons, complete freedom is working. What a statement. Even in the midst, we are always in the midst of complete freedom and the turnings of conditions. Freedom is always working. It's kind of the way, another way of talking about Dharma gates. So I'll be interested to hear from all of you over the course of time, Dharma gates that you recognize, that really made a difference for you when you realize, oh wait, this isn't terrible, this is a Dharma gate. This is allowing me to really get a really good look at the absolute nature of my life and the openness of it, continuously played out through conditions. So swing open the gates whenever you have a problem, and marvel at what else there is in this particular situation. What is it that's irked? And what else is going on? And who am I anyway? Thank you.